Hey, this is Notser, and we're talking about AP battleships versus the destroyer. So AP shells on a battleship are pretty notorious for killing destroyers rapidly, right? I think we all agree you basically don't have to switch because AP's that good, or HE's that bad at the raw damage output, right? Right. Everyone agrees that this exists in the game. And what Wargaming would like to do is make it to where AP always overpins the destroyer. It doesn't matter the angle, the length of the ship showing, AP from a battleship will always overpin and do overpin damage, which is 10% of its max damage. So let's just say some German fires his 13,000 damage shell, it's only going to do 1,300. And it won't do, what's 33% of 13? Somewhere like 4,200-ish, 4,300. 4,300 is a pretty big jump from 1,300, right? That's a big jump. That's why battleships fire AP against a destroyer, and they don't feel the incentive to switch. Also, they don't want to be caught out without using their best ammo, which for most is AP. Germans, Americans, and most of the Japanese, AP is just clearly better. We see what the British are, where they have basically the best HE in the game, which will ever be, and they're basically spamming HE and getting 100, 200,000 damage easily. That's not as fun. Right? Right. So, in Wargaming's suggested universe, because your AP shell is only going to be doing 10%, there's no incentive to fire AP. You will clearly switch to HE to fire against the destroyer. And you would only do that against the destroyer. You would still use AP against the battleship and against the cruiser. That's at least what I believe they're going for. Well, guess what? I think they're wrong. I think it is a noble endeavor to get battleships to want to switch ammo, but it is absolutely not going to work because battleship reload is too long. It's not comfortable to load an ammo and have to think about what's going to happen 30 seconds from now. Who will I fire at? Most of the time, you have multiple targets. Well, if I have AP loaded, I could basically one-shot that cruiser. If I have HE loaded, I certainly can't do that. I can do good damage if I can get an accurate shot, but it is nowhere near the AP potential damage on a cruiser. Or a battleship for that matter, for most of them. Obviously, we're not considering the super strong HE shells of the Brits. So in that world, where we have to consider 30 seconds, I don't think that is actually keeping people from switching ammo types. The benefit of the penetration sticking the ship, I think the reason AP is fired at the destroyer line is because people are lazy and they don't want to box themselves in to a scenario where they can't do good damage against something else that's out there. That's what I believe. And I don't think this is going to do anything. And when Wargaming sees that it doesn't do anything, they're going to change something else. What if they increase HE damage? Do we really need it to be as effective as it already is on the Brits? Hell no. I don't think that's a healthy environment either. Some could say, well, they're just going to lower the damage of AP. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they want to do that at all. Unfortunately, they want HE used, and they don't see the damage potential of battleships as an issue. Now, I think that on battleship combat feels pretty good, right? AP, HE. Some people could argue that the HE spam of the Brits has really turned them off to battleship combat because battleships, more so than any other, are super vulnerable to lots of HE spam because they're just so easy to hit. Let's say in this hypothetical world that Wargaming is setting up, HE is used more often by Germans, Brits even, Americans, and Japanese battleships. Okay, well, if the destroyer is killed or he goes in smoke, you're going to want to unload that ammo. You're not going to want to change your ammo because there's no incentive to keep the ammo in the gun and switch without firing. So, let's say you fire 1 extra salvo of HE per battle. That could be a really big deal. If there are 5 battleships per side, that could be 45 seconds of free fire damage on a target with no mitigation, because 2 targets firing on them, one's going to use the damage control, be the person taking the bullet and setting up the target for success. The other person's going to fire on the target, set him on fire, and he's going to burn like a Roman candle. That would probably net more damage just using 1 extra HE salvo per game than using a AP salvo in that stay. And this is where the issue lies. The core design is not set up correctly, and we're making massive changes to try and get people to play the game differently, when if they play the game differently, the game would actually probably be more broken than it already is. As weird as that sounds. As one person, HE is okay, unless you're a British battleship and it's completely broken. But as 2 people, HE is much better with 2 people than AP is with 2 people. Just because you still take a while for AP to kill the target. If you're, oh god, and the Grosser Kurfürst, there's the example that they want to get rid of. That Grosser Kurfürst just devastated that Fletcher because he was trying to maneuver away and he showed the length of his ship, and the AP stuck on the ship. So far, we have seen not 1, not 2, but 3 enemy destroyers all die to devastating strikes, with very little response that they could do in the game. 2 to the aircraft carrier, which is clearly the natural enemy of the destroyer. It's not the natural enemy of the battleship. No, it's the natural enemy of the destroyer, both in spotting and also damage output. Because it's just so easy to dodge those torpedoes at point-blank range, right, Wargaming? So yeah, I think what this will actually do is it will highlight the fact that HE was actually really, really broken for the battleship lines, and I feel really bad. I feel really bad that this is the direction I think the game's going to go, but I think we're going to go through probably a couple months of too much HE being fired, quite honestly. I think people are going to be sick of it, and I think they're going to want something done. And we're going to get right back here into the scenario where AP is the safe bet. If Wargaming is successful and HE and AP are fired, mechanically that's good for the individual's play. They have to consider it. But it could be bad just because of the way HE works. If you get a little more dot damage on the target, man, is it a lot easier to kill a target if they are taking dot damage. Aircraft carriers are set up to do more damage because they've really moved to, we need to cause a flood or a fire, we need to force them to use their damage control, and then we can dot them up. Use floods or fires after the fact when they're vulnerable for that 45 seconds. When more people are causing targets to be more vulnerable to dots, dots inherently become more powerful. That's just the way the game works. And I've seen a ton of aircraft carriers, and they all work off of dots. Now, you could have AP bombs, but, you don't have to pick on just Germans. You can pick on everyone. So I'm really perplexed by Wargaming's choice of change. I think it's in response to people complaining that it's not fun to be one-shot by a battleship. And I agree. But these HE shells do just as much or more damage on average, easily, especially against a skilled destroyer that will never show you a long-wise part of the ship. HE is superior to fire against it already, and it's really good. And that's not considering the British HE. Obviously, you should fire HE Brits. If you're not firing HE for a Brit battleship, you are kind of missing the point right now with the game. If you don't appreciate 45% fire chance and a half of your AP damage with HE, you're just missing the point. But they can heal that, Notser. They can't heal all the damage that's going to be coming in. It's going to be a lot of damage coming in. So I thought I had to talk about this. What's my thoughts on it? I don't think it's the problem. I think it's risking making more issues with the game for very small reward. I get that you want to make battleships more complex, but time and time again, we always see that battleships do better when they can just fire. Fire, fire, fire! And that's important. That's very important. And there's always a valid location to fire your AP. You know, I don't know that switching to HE and firing at the target is just a vastly more superior way to play the game. After playing it and considering it, and really watching the way the HE shell works for the Brits, it really feels like HE can just cascade out of control too fast. Whereas with AP, it's kind of fun to see a bow on target and shoot at the superstructure. Now, it's not fun to aim for that 20 kilometers away, but it's kind of fun when you're in that 10-kilometer range, 8-kilometer range, they're presenting only their bow, and obviously you're not Yamato, and you have to aim so your shells hit the superstructure. That way, it will penetrate the damage. I've done 8, 9, 10,000 damage shooting the superstructure of an enemy ship with AP, and it's all about the placement of my shells. That doesn't feel like it gets out of control cascading damage, but HE, absolutely. I'm afraid, I don't think fire prevention is good enough for the level of HE that we would see if this change were to come through and Wargaming got what they wanted, which is more HE being fired, because let's be honest, that's what would happen. That's a little scary. So yeah, I'm just curious what you think. Would encouraging ammo swap really make the game super good? Do we know all of the outcomes with battleships firing more HE? Is that a safe bet? I don't know. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.